Okay. I don't really like making a video like this. I'm not backtracking from my statements. I'm not backtracking. I did have a conversation about someone's thoughts on this whole entry fee, no entry fee, Bassmaster Leagues. I said my first video, I was not in favor of it. I'm not saying I'm not in favor of it, but I'm gonna at least, what I always try to do is in anything like that, is I always try to grasp as many different outlooks as possible, right? And I try to come from everyone's direction that could possibly be. I will admit I was a little biased on my thoughts on it because I was not in favor of it. I'm still not saying I'm in favor of it either. We'll get to that, and I'll explain why. However, I have lessened that it's just the worst idea in the world. I kind of came from where I'm at now. Where I'm at now and looking at it, I probably wouldn't like it. Now, there's a couple reasons for that. One is I'm always about making money in tournaments, right? Like the most amount of money I can make. That's my number one goal, is if you change up everything there is and I make $5,000 less in a year, I don't like that, right? I've always been able to make money in tournaments. And so every year I've never lost. If I ever lost in a year, I would literally for like 10 or 12 years, I'd have to retire. Like not retire. Wouldn't be retiring. Retiring is choosing to leave fishing. I would have quit. Not quit. I just wouldn't have been able to do it anymore. So I always had to make money from tournament winnings in fishing. And I still do to this day. I've never lost, like it's never even close. Like I'm not saying I make all my money now from fishing, but I'm just saying it's a good chunk of change. So I look at that as going, well, if I didn't make as much money next year as this past year, would it bother me? Yes. So I looked at it that way. And that's what would probably be happening a lot of times, or for a lot of guys in the elites. That's why I didn't like it. Now you're gonna be like, you didn't even fish elites. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. There's club tournaments that I look at that I'm like, those are horrible club tournaments. These are horrible tournaments. I don't fish them because I think the money's wrong, right? Or it's run badly or whatever. But I'm just saying, just because I don't fish something doesn't mean I can't comment on it. And I can't say it's a good idea or a bad idea, right? And here's the funny part. I've done this my whole life, like talked about fishing and talked about tournaments and stuff. And I've literally had other fishermen that fish tournaments like attack me. And it's funny because I'm literally out here fighting for them to make more money. Like my whole goal is to fight I don't fight for the organization. Sorry organizations. I will help y'all to make a better tournament trail. I will give you advice. Don't have to listen to it. I've been around a lot. I have some fairly good ideas. I think there's some tournament organizations out there for a fact that are like, hey, we've taken a lot of your ideas and we still use them today. They are good. Tournament guys are a lot happier. There's more tournament guys happier. They're fishing more of their events. They make more. Everyone makes more money. My whole goal is for everyone to make more money. So I have zero problem with an organization making more money as well. We'll get into that. So I looked at it from my point of view of today. I will admit, when I qualified for the elites when I was younger, I was like, I don't know why I forgot about this, but I was like, I don't have the money to like put up the deposit. I didn't have that money. And I was like, well, what happens when I fish back home, rounding up $200-300. I mean, say it's a team event, even at an expensive team events, $400. There's now team events used to be $1,000, whatever, but just say $300, $400 was back in the day would be extremely high for a team event. Splitting that, right? You're at 150 to 200. You can come up with that. You can find that money for the weekend somehow, some way. And even if you lose it, you're not like losing freaking a year's salary. But $45,000 back in the day was a year's salary for people. Like teachers didn't make that. Okay. So coming up with that and then not getting a check all year long, which is always possible. Hey, look, I know that's never happened to me, but if I didn't make a check all year long in fishing back home, it wouldn't be $45,000 of loss just in entry fees, right? So I looked at it as like, man, if I was younger and the entry fees were free, would I have probably gone to the elites? I probably would have. So it changed my thought process on that. Now, how many guys were like me when I qualified? I would say almost none, like zero. Just like over the last couple of years, I don't think anyone was in my position. One, I had a 10-year-old boat, 10-year-old truck. I had a buddy, I was out like 3 days ago, and my wife had a picture. She was looking through stuff, and she was like, showed a buddy of mine a picture of my boat, and he's like, "That was your boat?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude. That's what I qualified in the elites in. That thing." He's just like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "No, man. It was bad." And so, like, I would have had to have bought a new truck and a new boat and paid for entry fees and expenses. Like, I was not in a position to go do it all. You kind of look out there now. I don't like speaking for other people, but man, you know, I had like one little graph and one little graph on the back, and you know, it was just a lot cheaper. And my truck, I had a silver Dodge Ram 1500 with like 80,000 miles on it. My boat was 10 years old, and 220. Did I have a 225 VMAX on it? Yamaha. I mean, it was just, trolling motor was all beat up. It was however many years old. I mean, it was what it was. And you kind of look out there now in the opens, and I don't see that. I don't hardly see anyone like that, especially the guys that are making it. I mean, there's like minimum 5 graphs on their boat. I don't care if you're 17 years old or 40. I mean, they're wrapped boats, freaking everything's brand new, trucks jacked up, and I don't even know how they get in them, all that stuff. And so I don't think they're having the same problem as I would have. So I don't know if that really applies to them, but it would have applied to me. It would help guys out like me. Now, how many guys are like that? Now, you can't just say, "Oh, that's me," but you don't fish the opens, or you hadn't fished the opens, or you're not thinking about fishing them. That scenario applies to a bunch of people. Don't get me wrong, but are they really trying to qualify for the elites? The other thing too is they did away with the entry fees and helped the elites out. But man, if you want to qualify now, you still got to go fish 7 events. I mean, they're like, "Hey, this is for the working man." No, it's not. The opens are still expensive. 4 events and then 3 more at the end. It's still 7 events, 7 travel. Like, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, I couldn't have done it back. I couldn't have done it then. I did it back when it was 3 events. One of them was on Rayburn. I mean, they were all 3 fairly close. And so I didn't have to travel very far. One of them, I think I got to sleep in my own or semi-own bed. So, I mean, it was a lot easier. 4 events, look at it now. I don't even know where they go now. Was it Rayburn? Is you fall on it? No. Norfolk's on there. Leech is on there. I mean, it's still a lot of travel. So when I look at it all, the opens and the way to get there still cost you so much money that I would never even have tried it in that position. It doesn't make any sense. But once you're there, does it help those guys? It helps some guys. It helps some guys that are struggling, that maybe don't get that many checks, and it's not going to cost you that much, and you can just kind of, if you just get 1 or 2 checks, you're not going to necessarily come out ahead in your overall expenses, but you will come out ahead in overall what you've paid in, right? And then what you've made, as far as, I paid in $45,000, I made this much amount. I mean, guys were losing. So now a guy was like, "Hey, I only got 1 check. It was for 10 grand. I made 10 grand. Is that good? It's good for those guys. There's still a big group of guys, though, a big group that make 80 grand and put in 45, right? And there's 35,000, and maybe they make one top 10, but maybe they make a bunch of 20 seconds to 35th to 45th. Like they still, like they do really good. They make the classic, all that stuff. And they're just consistently staying inside that top 50. So they're consistently making checks. And those checks won't be there. Like that guy's going to lose money. And the guys at the top, and I always have been a top heavy guy. Like I believe tournaments should pay the top, not all the way down. That's what this is. I will say that that's what this is. And you're not putting up anything. You're not sacrificing a lot. I don't mind sacrificing a lot back home to fish tournaments. Like I want bigger entry fees because the payout's bigger, but I only want that because there's so many options to fish small tournaments. We're like, there was a small tournament this past weekend. There was a couple on Rayburn. There's one this upcoming weekend. First place was like 1,500. I don't even know what it was for last weekend. Sometime, and you're like, 1,500 split between two people is 750, but you put up 200. Now you're at 650 minus gas. Now you're at 550. And you're like, man, now you went and practiced. Now you're at 450. So you win the event and you win $450. That's if you practice one day, gas, and everything else like that. And I'm not poo-pooing $450. I used to do that all the time. I'm just saying that I have those options almost every weekend within 2 hours from my house. And I'm not just talking about Rayburn, Toledo, all these places, all these lakes. I can go find a tournament. There's almost none that are like, hey, $1,000 though, and you can win 50 grand, which we had in the Brandon Belts. I'll make that video later. So I just wanted more options to fish for bigger tournaments. I don't mind putting up the money, even $1,000. Don't get me wrong, 1,000 is still a lot, but you're splitting it with the guy, so it's 500, right? And you're splitting all the cost. You're splitting the where you stay, the gas, everything else like that. When you think about it, it's not that much difference. Like 400 to 1,000, you're like, oh, that's $600. No, it's like $300 because you're splitting everything, and you're still paying for the gas and everything else. Like all your expenses stayed the same. Now you're just getting a better chance to make more money. That's why I looked at it for the bass deal. Was that like, hey, when we put in all that much more money in the entry fees, we have a chance to make more in the long run. That's why I'm not saying I like the entry fees. I'm just saying when you switch it up, that option's gone. And so it's like, hey, it'd be like me going, hey, Todd, you still get to go fish these small tournaments, but your entry fee's paid for. I'm like, yeah, great. My entry fee's paid for. I get to go fish for $1,500. And now instead of winning, coming out 450, I make 550. That's if I win. Does that make sense? Because all you're doing is taking away that $200 entry fee. But I'm like, all the expenses still added up. Like those didn't change. My boat, insurance, rods, reels, baits, everything, none of that changed. Just the entry fee. And great, I can still make the same amount of money, or like the payout on the top still the same. But I'm like, in the long run, if I'm really doing good, I didn't save that much. Now, that's one way to look at it. The other way is this. This is a big deal. You got to come up with deposits right now. You don't even start your first tournament till whenever their first tournament is. So we're talking 3-4 months. Now, is $45,000 in a CD or anything that much money? In 3 months, it's probably close to 1,000. I mean, so you could go put that in there, like you lose another 1,000. You can put that money and make it an extra grand. Is that a big deal? No, but I mean, as I'm getting older, I understand that is a big deal. Like that is a big deal. Not only that, they're taking your money that you're putting deposits down. When you get 100 people all putting in 10, 15, 20 grand, multiply that by 100 deposits. They're taking all your money and making money off of it. Just saying. Little stuff. It's little stuff. I will say this though too. 45 grand is a lot for entry fees. If you then start adding in opens, say you wanted to go fish the division opens, that's four opens, right? $2,000 a piece. I don't know if they can fish those or the other three. The other three, I don't know what they're going to be like. I thought they were going to be like 3,500. So maybe there's 3 of them. If that's the case, that's another 10 grand. Don't hold me on that. I just thought that, because I didn't read on it, but I know the other ones are 2,000, but I thought that they were, correct me if I'm wrong, don't hold me to this, that the other ones were like 3,500, the other 3. And if so, if that's the case, that's 10.5. So your entry fees would now be 45 plus 10.5, 55, right? You'd be at 55.5 to fish 3 of the opens and 9 of those events. That is a lot of entry fees. What is kind of cool about that is, say the entry fees weren't a big deal for you, and you're going to get to fish for free over here. You could be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to still get in some opens. I could go fish the invitationals. I'll get in some Toyotas. I could fish the MPFL. I don't know if their schedules all line up, but you could put that money to another use of tournaments, to where you're not looking up going, man, if I went and fished the invitationals or Toyotas or whatever it is, that's another 6 to 10 grand in entry fees. So I do get that. Like, it makes it a little bit easier to go fish other tournaments, because a lot of the guys that have always spent 45 grand, they've always kind of had to come up with that money. So I see that point of view as well. So I'm seeing some other points of view that are valid, that I understand. So I'm lessening my stance on that it was a horrible idea. It's just it benefits some and doesn't others. I think it always would have, right? There's no great answer for this. But I'm not backing off of this stance. This is the part that I don't, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm dead wrong. I hope in a year or two, everyone gets on here and like, you were wrong, Todd. Dude, good. I don't want to be right on this. Problem is, I've never seen it not like this. And what I've always seen with tournaments. And I don't fault them on this. I don't fault them. But they have zero incentive to pay y'all more money. Zero. So if someone was like, hey, this is a step in the right direction, what? All they did was knock out entry fees and then took the money from the payout. It's like I said, if they'd have just kept the payout the same and made the entry fees zero, that's a step in the right direction. If y'all really think it's ever going to change, really? I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so. It's always going to be like that. And here's why. I tell this to all the guys at the lower level that fish events. Every time there's an event that the payout's like 70% and it's horrible, and they pay on down the list of guys finishing whatever place and getting $150 or $100, they don't even get their entry fee back, and it's just a poorly run event. Like, the money doesn't make sense. They keep too much of it. There's no incentive to fish it. There's no championship. It's just a bad tournament, right? There's bad tournaments all over the place. They exist because people show up to them. That's the problem. People show up to them. And as long as people show up to bad events, why would you change? Now, you can put bad products out there. You can do bad service. Guess what people usually do? If something you buy breaks every single time, are you going to just keep on buying that same product? No. If you go into a restaurant and the service sucks so bad every time you go in there, are you going to keep going? No. But good old fishermen, oh yeah, we will. Not me. I'm excluding myself. But fishermen, oh yeah, we'll show up. We'll show up to the worst event in the world. And what's sad is we show up half the time, not even for the money. It's to, like, guys are over there just going, hey man, I just won this tournament against 8 people, made no money, just to say you won. And they're sure not going to show up to a good event, right? Because they can't sit there and say they won. So Bass, and I'm not telling them something they already know, they just probably don't like me saying it. Why pay y'all more? I always say this to everyone, like, I'd be a horrible CEO of a company, I think. Because I'm always trying to do like, I would always try to do the right thing. Like, right? I'm always trying to like look out for like, how can we do this? Guys would hate me that work for me because they're like, hey, why are you giving, we want to make more money. If you're running Bass, why would you ever give the elite guys more money? You couldn't give me one reason as to give them more money. Why? They're going to show up. They're going to fish. Half of them leave. We got 100 of them trying to qualify. And as long as those 100 are wanting to qualify, supply and demand, guys. They're not running out of demand. They're going to have it. They're going to have guys. There's so many guys on the elites right now that don't care about that entry fee or don't care about this or that. They don't care about none of that. They got money. They got all this stuff. They care about quotes showing that they're a professional fisherman. They care about trophies and man, I'll take a trophy, man. But if they're like, you can have the trophy or the money, give me the money. I'll draw a trophy. I'll build my own trophy out of some wood and say, there it is. I won this. All right. I'm just saying, like, there's some guys up there trying to do this for way different reasons. There's nothing wrong with that. Just saying, if you're not worried about any of that stuff and it's just ego and pride and doing all this stuff, which, that's fine, but it's not going to help put more money in the pot. So I wouldn't pay y'all either. Wouldn't pay them. They don't need to. So everyone's like, if you're hoping they're going to do it out of the goodness of their heart, man, keep hoping. That's all I'm going to say. And I don't blame them for that. I'm not blaming them at all for that. I'm just stating a fact. They have zero reason to pay them any more than they have to. They're going to keep showing up. Bad service, bad product, doesn't matter. They don't care about none of that. Some of them do. But the other ones, they just tell me where I need to show up and fish. That's all they care about. They want to just parade around in their nice little shirts with all their little logos on them, with their wrap boat, and do all that and play the part. That's going on in our tournaments, like local tournaments. That's going on in college fishing. That's going on in high school fishing. It's not changing. And that's why I always look at it and go, well, y'all's this pipe dream that y'all think it's going to change, or it's not going to change. That's why I'm so upset about the Brandon Belt deal, because the Brandon Belt deal was one of the best things I'd ever seen. I'll talk to y'all about that later. All right, time to go. See y'all.